Art is hard sometimes, knowing what an artist meant and what they definitely did not. And this of course is even true of an art form seemingly as obvious as songwriting. I mean, words are words, right? Wrong's a word. Do you remember how dumbfounded you felt when you learned that Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind was about drugs? And when you learned that Cloud 9 by The Temptations wasn't about drugs? Well, oh boy, buckle up then, because I'm Nostalgic Nick with Do You Remember, and today we're looking at the most misunderstood songs of the 1970s. If you enjoy the playlist, please click that little thumbs up icon. It really helps the video circulate and it helps our channel grow. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a memory. But now, let's whip this video right on up. What happened? I Will Always Love You, Dolly Parton. We'll start this list off with one of the greatest love songs of all time, I Will Always Love You by the great Dolly Parton. A song so moving and beautiful that it definitely had to be written for the love of Parton's life. Well, no, wrong. Or at least for a long-lost love. No, wrong. Or at least for an esteemed bodyguard who took a bullet for Dolly. Nope, of course not, as many of us do know at this point. Dolly Parton wrote this incredible song to soften the blow when she separated from her longtime business partner Porter Wagoner in 1973. But she felt bad. She loved Porter in a way, and she had to write him the best song ever about someone kinda getting fired. Whip It, Devo. At first, it seems obvious what Devo were doing with their 1979 song Whip It. I mean, the band were famous for their blatant sexual references in songs. So Whip It clearly must have to do with some sadomasochistic BDSM thing going on, or at the very least about touching oneself, right? Well, no, not at all. For once, the band went highbrow, and the song is actually a satirical take on American optimism, with us Yanks thinking we can just whip any problem. In other words, the most English thing imaginable. But after having to endure countless dirty jokes from DJs before interviews and such, the band decided to just lean into the misapprehension, and the song's music video does actually feature clothes being whipped off a smoking cowgirl. Oh yeah, and lots of whipped cream. I guess give the people what they crave. American Girl, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. American Girl, the ubiquitous 1976 single from Tom Petty, supposedly has a dark undercurrent running through it. Based on the line about a desperate girl on a balcony out on 411, many people assume that the song is about a University of Florida student who jumped to her death from a dormitory window, which would be super sad, except that it's all a load of bull, as Petty himself has stated. He said, quote, "They could have just called me and found out it wasn't true." For the real inspiration behind American Girl, we have to switch coasts and head to California, where the cars driving by on the freeway outside of his apartment reminded the singer of the ocean. I know, kind of boring, not a death in sight. Also, while there's no word on if Petty was a film buff or not, in Francis Ford Coppola's debut 1963 Dementia 13, a character remarks, quote, "Especially an American girl, you can tell she's been raised on promises," which echoes the opening line of Petty's hit, well, kinda perfectly. American Woman, the Guess Who. Alright, let's all grow up a little bit as we turn from girls into women. Because it's pretty obvious what the Guess Who's 1970 single American Woman is about. Because what images does it immediately conjure? Civil unrest as the US fought in Vietnam and grappled with the civil rights movement. Richard Nixon's wife Pat even asked the band not to play the song when the group played at the White House, because American Woman's supposedly anti-American slant. And yet, that is not what the song was about at all. Apparently the band, who were from a small conservative town in Canada, just literally weren't ready for the world-wise, street-smart, tough women that they met in the US big cities. They were immediately intimidated by them, and longed for the more straight-laced girls from back home. Yeah, an odd position for a rock band to take. Perfect Day, Lou Reed. Perfect Day, the 1972 single from former Velvet Underground frontman Lou Reed, is a perfectly delightful little ditty about a man having, you guessed it, his perfect day. The song is soft and sweet, and so naturally everyone's first thought on hearing it is, okay, drugs. Gotta be about drugs, right? Probably for two reasons. It is Lou Reed, famous drug user who released such songs as H and White Light, White Heat, which is an ode to meth. And B, well, Perfect Day was beautifully featured in the film Trainspotting, as Ewan McGregor does indeed have a blissful H overdose. But I think everyone needs to get their minds out of the gutter, because the song is in fact just about Reed going to the park with his girlfriend. To quote the man himself, "No, that's not true. This guy's vision of a perfect day was the girl, sangria in the park, and then you go home. A perfect day, real simple." So yeah, shame on all of you, and yeah, shame on me, but hell, I do love that song. Less Than Zero, Elvis Costello. New wave legend Elvis Costello grew increasingly frustrated with American audiences not understanding the meaning of his hit single Less Than Zero as he toured the US in 1977. People either thought it was just some rock and roll music with a fashionable title, or took the reference to Mr. Oswald to mean the song was about JFK's final day. Neither of which were right, because the Oswald in question was in fact Oswald Mosley. Yes, that's right, say it with me now, the leader of the British Fascist Party in the 1930s. Gee, I wonder how American audiences missed that. Costello saw an interview with Oswald on the BBC and became incensed when the former fascist leader seemed completely unrepentant for his actions. Which I think is a really good reason to write a song, because fascism can suck it. White Riot, The Clash. On first listen to The Clash's 1977 hit single White Riot, you can see why some people have misunderstood the song to have a problematic meaning. Especially in this day and age, anybody exhorting all the white people to riot seems a bit sketchy and smack a little of Germany in the 1940s. But in fact, The Clash, a notoriously left-wing band, wanted the opposite. They wrote White Riot after band members Joe Strummer and Paul Simonon had been involved with the riots at the Notting Hill Carnival in 1976. Strummer saw oppressed black and brown youth fighting back against poverty and police oppression, and wanted white youth to join them to fight the proverbial man. Yes, far from a call for a race war, White Riot is actually a call to fight for everyone's rights. Bodhisatwa, Steely Dan. In 1973, Steely Dan, those rock gods who were hipsters before the word was even invented, released the single Bodhisatwa, and their fans thought the group had fully embraced Buddhism as a way of life, because the term Bodhisattva obviously refers to someone in Buddhism who has achieved enlightenment. Don't worry, Steely Dan, that's not esoteric at all. And with lines like Bodhisattva, would you take me by the hand? And Bodhisattva, I'm gonna sell my house in town. The song's meaning seems obvious, but this is Steely Dan after all, so obviously no, it's not. Here's a quote from the band keyboardist Dan Fagan describing the song as, quote, "sort of a parody on the way Western people look at Eastern religion. Sort of oversimplify it. We thought it was rather amusing. Most people didn't get it. So I'll just leave this chapter with a question. Hey Dan, if no one gets a joke, is it still a joke? Food for thought." We Gotta Get You a Woman, Todd Rundgren. People today understandably get a little ruffled when they hear We Gotta Get You a Woman, the 1970 hit song from Todd Rundgren. Because at first, and second, and probably third glance, women don't exactly come off that well. Skipping over treating females like objects, the song is full of lines like, talking about things about that special one. They may be stupid, but they sure are fun. Which, ouch. However, and this more than a little sounds like a PR move after the fact, Rundgren claims the song isn't anti-women at all. and that the aforementioned line was referring to stupid little characteristics that people have, funny little quirks and stuff like that. Okay, sure, Todd. But I suppose we should take him at his word and say that perhaps We Gotta Get You a Woman isn't an ode to misogyny at all. There they are, 9 of the most misunderstood songs of the 1970s. So how many of these songs actually had you fooled? How many of you smarty pants knew them already? And did we forget any misunderstood songs from the 1970s? Well, tell us all about it in the comment section. After all, we here at Do You Remember are nothing without you. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the playlist, once again, hit that thumbs up icon. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't get left behind. And hey, put on some of these songs today and give them a listen. After all, that's what we're here for, to remember. But most importantly, from my entire team here at Do You Remember, we want to thank you so much for watching and have a great day.